my God. We're close to 5,000 founders for the This is insane. How is that possible? We knew it would be a fun device and that it would have some success, but then what we're doing right now, that is not what I had imagined. That is better than expected, and that's so awesome. So thank you so much for the support. You can be sure that we're working our asses off to get this to production because we are so much looking forward to everybody using the that we're even actively thinking about where we can still make some improvements before we go to production. And that's also the whole thing with these updates, because this is the first update and there's going to be multiple updates going forward. And if you're new to this, then what you can expect is frequent updates where we're going to review samples that come in, the product that comes in, changes that we've made, feedback that you've given. And that's also the beauty of doing these launches on time, is that we can actually make some changes before we go to production based on your feedback. Speaking of, we are still very much on schedule for production, and we are currently in the phase that we call DVT, which is Design Validation Test. Now, to explain a little bit more for everybody that's new before I go into the state of development and everything that's here, like our little UwU device, the whole production process is very simple. We started off with a concept design of the device. Then we went to EVT, which is Engineering Validation Test. That's basically, let's make the electronics of the device and see if it actually works. Then we head towards DVT, which is Design Validation Test, which is, well, here's your first production model of the device and it's put together. Does that work, yes or no? And then we go to PVT, which is a Production Validation Test, which is we're going to assemble the product together, do a small run to kind of see if we run into issues with tolerances or the assembly, or maybe there's a part that's not working out before you start purchasing huge volumes for finally mass production, which is MP. So right now we're heading towards the DVT phase. That's also why I have this beautiful mock-up of the which is not just a mock-up, it's actually a fully functional UwU device, which has already seen lots of action in OS. Last Woot Up, where somebody already played Mania with not just one of the mock-ups, but with two of the mock-ups at the same time. If you're interested in that, they made a small video that you can find on Reddit. There's a link in the description. And I've also did my own little test on Twitter where you can see it in action. Now, one of the first things we already did, and which is so nice during this phase we're in right now, is that we can still make changes based on your feedback. So we looked at the comments, we looked at the feedback, and one of the things that we saw was that you want to have the L60 switches on the device, but you also want to have the L45 switches on the device. So which one should we choose? Should we choose the heavier one? Should we choose the lighter one? You know what? Let's just add the heavier ones also in the box. Then you can choose if you want to install the L45s or you want to install the L60s. Actually, the L45s will already be pre-installed on the device, and these will be free additions inside the box. So if you have other comments, feedback, or anything that you see you think of, hey, that might be done better, or I think this would be nice for me or for somebody else, then definitely let us know, because we are reading, we are listening, and if we can make it better, we will make it better. And that brings me now to kind of the state of development. So like I said, we're working towards that DVT moment, and before we go into DVT, it's very important that we check all the components. Because when we go into DVT, it also means we're going to open the tooling and the molds, which are the biggest investments and also take the longest to complete. Of this mock-up, we're actually very happy with the whole mechanical design, but we're still having two issues. One is that the RGB bar can be done better. We're not too happy yet with how the light is spread around, and it can be done slightly better. And the silicone buttons right over here, those are not pressing smoothly yet. They're actually a bit stuck. So that can be better. We're changing the design on those. I'll be receiving new samples to check them out. Once those samples are approved, then we can actually start opening the tooling and the molds and get a step further towards DVT. Another important part of the DVD phase is that we start looking at the packaging and the contents of the box. So I just told you about the extra switch, but we also have, for example, the travel case that comes with the RGB version, for which I'm going to receive a sample. We also have the outer box packaging of the device that needs to complete in its white version, meaning there's no graphics on it. So I'll be receiving that too. Then we are looking at the cable. This is not the cable that comes with the device. It's just the longer cable I'm using right now. But we're looking both at the design of the cable and the style of the cable. That is something we need to make a final conclusion on. I have this idea for an alternative cable that I'll come back to another time. But those are all the things that we're preparing towards DVT, and that needs approval before we start opening all the tooling and the molds. Then we also have to look on the software side. Now, thankfully, this is a Wooting keyboard, but it just has 3 keys, so most of the stuff is already done. But there are some specific things that we want to add to the device, such as, for example, RGB effects. Now, the RGB on the UwU device is a bit different than our regular keyboard because it has this whole bar going around, and it's not just a bunch of keys, so it is also requiring different effects. Now, we had this really cool workshop at the Woot Up where people could give feedback on what kind of RGB effects they want to see on the UwU device. Those are noted, and we will start implementing a couple of them. I think one of the cool examples was, for example, to change the colors based on your APM. Now, on the utility side, we also need to add better multiple device support, so you cannot just have one UwU, but you can have 2, and you can also have a Wooting keyboard, and it's easy and quick to switch in between the devices and make adjustments to the settings. That is something we need to add. Then, not to forget, we're also working on the collectible keycaps. I have a sample set right over here. It's from the old designs that we initially made, but these samples are helping us find out what are the limitations of dye sublimation, how small can we go with the design, which colors work, which colors don't work, and what is the quality of the dye sublimation supplier in general. Now, we could already see that actually it came out really well, much better than we expected. We're able to go smaller than what we even thought, but some designs are definitely a little bit too small, which is causing the colors blur together and that not looking nice. And then there's also sometimes a slight difference in the quality that the sublimation is in, which I have here, for example, where one is a bit more blurred, the other one is more sharp, but that's just giving us a really great indication where we need to check when it comes to quality control, because we can reject the ones that are blurry and make sure to approve only ones that are sharp and nice, crisp, and great looking. Now, that kind of concludes it for this update. In the next update, I'm going to go into the development of the UwU from the start up until so far. So if you're interested in more context and the development in itself, then definitely stick around for that update. And after that update, I'm probably going to have a bunch more samples where we're going to take a look at the new state of development and all the things that came in. Bye-bye.